So picking up where we left off, we have this audio track, which is from the movie Laziest Mission Ever. And we have Chad's band imported here, an MP3 file that you'll find in the Chapter 10 folder. I'm going to drag this down to my timeline and add this to the second audio layer, or audio track. Now, just as with video, you can have as many audio tracks as you want. Just right-click on an audio track and select Add Tracks to add more audio or video tracks. The thing you got to remember about audio tracks in Premiere is that they're not like video tracks in the sense that video tracks kind of take over one another. If we have one layer of video and then bring another layer of video on top of it, then we can't see the layer beneath it. With audio, we kind of mix the two together. So I'm going to temporarily take off the audio of the Chad's band layer by clicking the speaker icon. Once that little square is empty, it indicates that this audio will not preview. So let's preview just the audio we have so far.
Dropo, you were the laziest man on Mars.
Okay, I'm going to hit the home key. Now let's preview the Chad's audio. Take off the audio of the Laziest Martian Ever clip and turn back on the audio of Chad's band. And let's preview that. Okay, so now if I hit the home key and turn them both on, you'll notice that we hear both of them together kind of mixed.
You were the laziest man on Mars.
Which sounds kind of cool. In the next segment, we'll show you how to mix those two together with a little bit more control. Now you'll notice that for the audio 1 track, we're seeing the waveform here. But we're not seeing the waveform for the audio clip. That's because this layer is collapsed. To expand it, hit the little triangle, and then now it's expanded, we can see the audio waveform levels here. This is a great indicator for getting a ballpark of how to sync up your video to audio. Say, for example, we wanted the first words to sync up with this audio beat. We can tell that there's a little bit of a gap here. It means there's nothing really intense going on here, but something happens here in the Chad's band audio track. And same thing with the voice. On the Laziest Martian Ever clip, it starts here. So we can line these two up just to get a ballpark of when these start together. Now if we preview this audio, the talking, will line up with this downbeat in the music. Let's see what that sounds like. Kinda cool. Now, I'm just going to drag this back to the start here. I'll show you again in the next segment a better way to mix, but for a quick fix, notice that the rubber band on audio clips is by default set to volume. So if we want to take down the volume of a clip, we can click on this and drag down, or click and drag up. I'm just going to hit Command Z or Control Z to undo that. Finally, before we leave audio layers, there's one critical thing you need to be aware of. This icon here is essentially two speakers, one facing left and the other one facing right here on the right-hand side. It's kind of small, and that's why I point out what it is. And basically what this means when you see these two speakers like this is that this track is stereo. Notice that the default is to have stereo layers, so even though these audio tracks have nothing in them, you'll notice that they're already set by default to stereo. Well, what happens when we bring in a clip that's not stereo? I'm going to double click to import. So I'm going to click on this Get In Car clip and hit import. And I know already that this clip has mono audio. So watch what happens when I drag this to my timeline. Notice that there are only 3 audio tracks right now. So I drag this to my timeline, and look at that. Look where that audio track is going. No matter where I put my video track, that audio will not go anywhere else. Even though there's an additional blank audio track there, because this clip has mono audio, it will not go on a stereo track. So once I let go of my mouse to accept the importing of this clip into my timeline, you'll see that an additional audio track has been created for this clip with only one speaker showing up, an audio track 4. So again, the stereos and monos don't mix. And this also solves a little bit of a housekeeping problem in Premiere that I've seen a lot of new users have. Is when you bring a clip in with mono audio, you often can't find the audio. You might hear it playing back, but it might not fit by default in this little area here. And the reason, of course, again, is that it created a new audio track that might be below the visible area of the audio portion of the timeline. So there is a big chance that Premiere is not possessed, and you just have to scroll down to get to the additional audio track. And again, that scroll bar is found right here on the right-hand side of the audio area. So we've danced a little bit around the issue of mixing audio, so let's get to that in the next segment and devote a little bit more time just to that topic. Now, at the core of dealing with audio in Premiere is the ability to mix the different levels of volume for the different audio tracks so that you get a right balance between them. Now, this is where it starts getting very advanced very quickly. So I'm just going to give you a little hint here, and we'll cover audio more in the Beyond the Basics series. There is actually an audio mixer panel that we're going to open up in just a second here, but I want to make sure that you understand that it's very different than the Audio Master Meters panel here. The Audio Master Meters panel gives us a readout of how hot, or in other words, how loud our volume for our audio is, for our master track. That's essentially all audio taken together. If I play back this audio as is now, selecting the timeline, hit the space bar,
You were the laziest man on Mars.
it pretty much stays in this green and maybe a little bit of yellow arena. So there's a little bit of wiggle room here. We could push this audio a little bit further and be okay. Once we get past this 0, it will turn red in these boxes to indicate that there is going to be an audio clip. In other words, it's too loud. But really, that's all this little panel does. It's just a read-only panel to give you an update of the audio volume of the master audio that you have going on here. So always remember that there are 2 audio panels, Audio Master Meters, and if we go to the window menu here, Audio Mixer. 2 different ones. Don't get confused there. I'm going to select Audio Mixer, and there's our Audio Mixer. Kind of awesome looking. I'm going to resize this so I can see this. And, you know, it's kind of a pain to do this every time you want to open up the Audio Mixer to resize everything, get everything the way you like it. So why not just go to Window, Workspace, and use the already made for you Audio Workspace. So instead of spending all that time rearranging your panels, just have Premiere do it for you. When you're done editing audio, just go back to your other workspace. Now I'm going to select my timeline, hit the Home key. As I preview this back, listen to the balance between the audio levels of the 2 tracks.
You were the laziest man on Mars.
And you can actually just tell by looking at these 2 different meters here on the left and right side for Audio 1, Audio 2, that Audio 1 never quite gets that high, and Audio 2 is much higher. So what I'm going to do is take the volume of Audio 2 down quite a bit. Now if I hit the Home key and preview again,
You were the laziest man on Mars.
there's a better balance there. And so we can continue on for every audio track and adjust these sliders. And again, the more we push these up, the louder the track will be. As we click and drag down, the lower the audio volume will be. We can control the pan level for each audio track, and the panning is basically whether it's in the left speaker or the right speaker. We can click and drag on a knob, just click on a knob and drag it up and down. Or you can click and scrub left and right on these. And if I were to leave this as is now, with the white little tick mark on this side of the knob, it would basically be a little bit more on the left side of the speaker. Now to increase this stereo effect, you probably want to vary and mix up what is on what track as far as panning goes. So what you might want to do is put that one to the left, put this one to the right, maybe put that one a little bit to the left, put this one hard to the right, and so on down the line for each of your audio tracks. This creates a much more spacious sound, having different instruments at different places or locations in the panning spectrum. Now, there's a couple of buttons I want to point your attention to here. We also have a speaker icon, which will mute the track. If I click that, then track 1 will not play back. Right, so let me hit the Home key first and hit the space bar. You see it's just the music track. Hit the Home key again, and we'll unmute this, and this time mute Audio 2.
Dropo, you were the...
And it's just the dialogue track. Now the opposite of mute is solo. With the mute button clicked, it says I don't want to hear this track. With the solo button selected, it means I want to hear this track and nothing else. Now as it stands, we only have 2 audio layers here, so it really doesn't make that much of a difference whether you use mute or solo. But if you were to have 30 layers, and you just wanted to hear one layer, maybe there was a solo and you wanted to make sure that you could hear every nuance or something, then you could solo just that layer. Or, as is also often the case, sometimes there might be a little weird audio buzz or something that just kind of drives you nuts and you can't quite put your finger on it. So you can go through then and solo each layer one at a time to try and find and diagnose the problem. Now I mentioned that this audio mixer is where it starts getting really advanced, and I wasn't kidding. If you go to this drop down here, you'll see that we have all these different options and we can actually animate the volume of the slider. So as it is right now, we set this audio level at, let's say, okay, negative 6.2, and it's going to stay at negative 6.2 for the duration of the track. But using this drop down, we could also animate this volume, just like in a real recording studio when you go to record your tracks, and you can have the soundboard remember your actions as you're mixing the track. You can do that here as well. There's also buses and sends and all sorts of really intense, hairy things with audio in Premiere. It's very powerful. So now that we know how to get balance between the volume levels of our different audio tracks, let's move on to talk about adding effects to our audio.